Welcome. If you're preparing for a product owner interview and want a focused, high impact way to brush up on the key areas, you're in the right place. This session is designed as a fast track preparation. No fluff, no theory dumps, just practical insights, real world expectation, and the kind of thinking interviewers look for when hiring a strong product owner. We'll go topic by topic, covering what matters most, the core responsibilities, how to manage real world scenarios, and how to communicate your experience with confidence. Here are the key areas we'll be walking through in this session: role and responsibilities, product backlog management, stakeholder management, Agile and Scrum fundamentals, product vision and strategy, roadmap planning and prioritization, metrics and KPIs, user story mapping and acceptance criteria, collaboration and conflict resolution, business acumen, empathy and user-centered design. These aren't just terms to memorize, they're the building blocks for strong, confident interview responses. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of what interviewers expect and how to connect those expectations to your own experience. Let's dive in. Role and responsibilities. As a product owner, your role goes far beyond writing user stories or prioritizing features. In an interview, one of the first things hiring managers want to assess is how well you understand the true scope of your responsibilities and how you've applied that understanding in real-life situations. You're the person accountable for maximizing the value delivered by the product. That means you are not just taking orders from stakeholders and you are not just recreating to what the team wants to build. Instead, you are constantly aligning business needs, user value, and development capacity, and making decisions that bring the most value to the product at every step. You should be prepared to explain how you own the product backlog, not just maintain it, but actually shape it based on customer insights, stakeholder feedback, technical feasibility, and business goals. Interviewers might ask, how do you define success in your role as product owner? Or tell me about a time when you had to balance competing priorities between two important stakeholders. These questions test your strategic thinking and your ability to make thorough calls. Another area of focus is how you collaborate, especially with the Scrum Master and the developers. Can you explain how you engage in sprint planning, how you contribute to sprint reviews, how are you available during the sprint to clarify requirements or make quick decisions? It's also helpful to show you understand the boundaries of your role. For example, you don't micromanage how developers build the solution, but you do ensure they understand the why behind what they're building. If you work in environments with multiple teams or scaled agile, be ready to talk about coordination, how you work with the other POs or with the chief product owner to maintain alignment across backlogs and roadmaps. Also, think about a few examples that show how you made an impact. For instance, how a product decision you made resulted in improved customer retention or better user engagement. These are powerful stories that prove you not only understood the role but delivered value through it. In short, go into your interviews with a crisp, confident explanation of the PO role and use experience-backed example to show that you've lived it, not just learned it. Product backlog management. Backlog management is one of the most visible and measurable parts of your work, and it's a frequent interview topic. The interviewer wants to know, are you just moving tickets around, or do you treat the backlog as a strategic tool for delivering value? Start by showing that you can view the backlog as a living artifact, one that evolves continuously based on feedback, learning, and new information. It's not a to-do list, it's a prioritized, outcome-driven representation of what the team should focus on next. Expect questions like, how do you prioritize backlog items, or how do you handle stakeholder requests that don't align with the current roadmap? Use these questions as an opportunity to explain your prioritization framework. Whether you use Moscow, WSJF, cost of delay, or simply ROI based reasoning, be sure to explain why you choose that method and how you apply it in real conversation. Also, talk about backlog refinement. How do you prepare for it? How do you make sure stories are split well, sized appropriately, and clearly defined before they reach sprint planning? One common trap in interviews is talking about tools like Jira, Trello, or Azure boards. Tools are fine, but the focus should be on your thought process. For example, how do you ensure clarity in stories for the team? How do you handle technical debt and bugs in the backlog? How do you create alignment across stakeholders when there are too many competing items? You should be ready to talk about grooming the backlog collaboratively. Good product owners don't do it in isolation. They work with developers, QA, designers, and stakeholders. They bring everyone into the conversation, helping them understand the why behind the work. Another strong interview point is how you triage the backlog during a crisis. Say, a high priority issue comes in, what gets deprioritized? How do you communicate the change to the team and to stakeholders? A great answer in this area shows that not just you can organize work, but that you can think strategically and make thought prioritization decisions with limited data. Finally, show that you bring focus and simplicity to the backlog, removing unnecessary items, merging similar requests, and keeping it tightly aligned with product goals. That's what makes you not just a manager of stories, but a real product leader. Stakeholder management. Strong stakeholder management is one of the top skills interviewers look for in a product owner because in real world settings you're constantly balancing the needs, opinions, and priorities of multiple people who don't always agree. In the interview, you'll often hear questions like, how do you manage conflicting priorities from stakeholders? Or tell us about a time when you had to push back on stakeholder requests. Start by explaining how you identify your stakeholders, not just who they are, but what matters to each of them. This includes internal stakeholders like marketing, sales, support, leadership, and of course your development team. It also includes external ones, end users, customers, partners. Talk about how you build trust early. That could be through regular meetings, shared product goals, or consistent follow up. Trust is essential, especially when you have to say no. Then get into how you prioritize requests. Stakeholders often ask for everything and want it now. Explain how you bring transparency to the process by connecting their requests to broader business objectives or customer outcomes. This helps shift conversations from I need this feature to let's talk about the problem you're solving. Be ready to give example of conflict resolution where two or more stakeholders had opposing demands. How did you handle it? Did you rely on data, customer feedback, business cases, or maybe a proof of concept? Good answers show that you listened to both sides, facilitate discussions, and drove toward alignment, even if no one got exactly what they wanted. Also, share how you communicate decisions. Maybe you maintain a stakeholder board, send regular product updates, or hold demo sessions. Clear, proactive communication helps reduce surprises and build credibility. And don't forget to show empathy. Product owners who listen actively, understand the pressure stakeholders face, and work collaboratively are the ones who stand out, both in the job and in the interview. Agile and Scrum fundamentals. You'd be surprised how many product owners stumble on basic Agile and Scrum questions in interviews, even experienced ones. This section of the interview is meant to test whether you truly understand how Scrum works and how the PO role fits within it. Interviewers might ask, what happens during a sprint review? What's your role in sprint planning? Or even what's the difference between a Scrum Master and a product owner? Don't just recite definitions, show understanding of why these events exist and how they support transparency, collaboration, and adaptability. For example, in sprint planning, your role is to communicate the sprint goal, clarify backlog items, and help the team understand what's most important. But you don't estimate tasks or assign work. That's for the developers. During sprint reviews, your job is not just to demo the work, it's to invite feedback, engage stakeholders, and ensure what's built aligns with product goals. Daily scrums, not mandatory for you to attend, but many good POs do, just to stay in sync and remove blockers early. But again, you are not leading the meeting. Sprint retrospectives, that's more the Scrum Master's role, but you should be open to feedback and continuously improve your own collaboration with the team. Also, be ready to talk about Scrum artifacts like the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. What's your responsibility in maintaining transparency around them? If you work in a non-Scrum environments or hybrids, like combining Scrum with Kanban or say FEA, explain how you adapted without losing the essence of Agile values, delivering iteratively, collaborating closely, and responding to change. A great product owner doesn't just know the Scrum guide, they know how to apply it pragmatically while staying true to its principles. Product vision and strategy. If backlog management is the day-to-day, product vision and strategy are the big picture. Interviewers want to know, do you think like a feature manager or a product leader? Expect questions like, how do you contribute to product vision? Or can you describe a time you helped shape or pivot the product strategy? Start by explaining what a product vision is, a clear, inspiring statement about the future of the product. It's not just a slogan, it's the North Star that aligns everyone, from development to marketing to customer support. If you've helped craft a vision, describe the process. Maybe you used discovery interviews, market analysis, competitive research, or customer feedback. Maybe you work closely with UX or senior leadership. Show that you understand how to bring insight and structure into vision building. Then move into strategy, the roadmap to that vision. What's the market opportunity? What user problems are we solving? How do we differentiate from competitors? Good product owners can answer these questions, or at least show they've asked them. Talk about how you balance short-term priorities with long-term goals, how you define and measure progress towards strategic objectives. If your roadmap changed, explain what triggered the pivot. What is a change in business direction, new insight from user testing, or drop in usage metrics. Interviewers also want to see how you help your team stay connected to the vision. How do you remind them of the why behind the work? Maybe you create visual roadmaps, share customer stories, or tie sprint goals back to the bigger mission. Also, share how you validate your strategy, maybe through A/B testing, early releases, or user interviews. A smart strategy isn't just visionary, it's tested and refined continuously. In short, show that you are not just executing a backlog, you are driving the product forward with a clear, evolving sense of purpose. Roadmap planning and prioritization. A roadmap isn't just a timeline of features, it's a strategic communication tool that helps everyone understand where the product is headed, why this direction matters, and what the value is expected at each stage. In interviews, you may be asked, how do you build and communicate your product roadmap, or how do you handle changes in roadmap priorities due to shifting business needs? Begin by explaining how you align the roadmap with the product vision and business goals. Talk about involving stakeholders early, understanding strategic objectives from leadership, capturing input from sales or support, and incorporating customer needs and market trends. Next, discuss your prioritization approach. You might use frameworks like Moscow, RICE, VSJF, or simply a scoring model that balance effort, value, and risk. What matters is not the technique but your ability to apply in real-world trade-off and explain your decisions clearly. For example, suppose you had to deprioritize a popular feature because of resource constraints or because another item had higher urgency. How did you explain that decision to the stakeholders? Did you back it with data or align with customer feedback? Interviewers also want to see flexibility. Roadmap changes, new information comes in, market shifts, priorities get updated. So, how do you adjust the plan while maintaining stakeholder trust and team focus? Share examples where you successfully navigated change and kept everyone aligned. Also, touch on different roadmap levels: strategic, yearly themes, tactical, quarterly releases, and operational, upcoming sprints. Show that you're capable of zooming in and out, tailoring your communication to the audience. And finally, emphasize transparency. Do you use tools like visual roadmaps, release calendars, or planning cadences to keep everyone informed? The best product owners not only build good roadmaps but keep them visible, flexible, and aligned with value delivery. Metrics and KPIs. Metrics can make or break product decisions. They show whether your team is building the right thing and whether your product is meeting customer and business expectations. In interviews, you might hear, "What metrics do you track as a product owner?" or "Tell us how metrics have influenced your decisions." Start by differentiating between product metrics and process metrics. Product metrics focus on customer and business outcomes like activation rate, retention, usage frequency, NPS, or conversion. Process metrics are about delivery like cycle time, sprint velocity, or lead time. Be clear about which one you focus on and why. For example, if you're working on a B2B SaaS platform, maybe your key metrics are user engagement, churn rate, or time to value. If you are in e-commerce, it might be cart abandonment, AOV, or conversion rate. Explain how you set metric goals and how you validate that a new feature moved the needle. Did you monitor post-release adoption, use dashboards, run A/B tests? Also, talk about how metrics guide prioritization. Say you are deciding between two features. One has high stakeholders pressure, the other supports an unperforming KPI. Which do you choose? Strong answers show how you use data, not just opinions, to drive decisions. You can also mention how you share metrics with your team. Do you review them during sprint reviews, include them in demos, discuss them in retrospectives? Don't just drop names of metrics. Tie them to real decisions and real results. Show that you not only collect data but know how to interpret it and act on it. Finally, mention how you avoid metrics traps. Vanity metrics, misinterpreted data, or over optimization for a single KPI can be dangerous. Good product owners balance qualitative feedback with quantitative metrics and always keep the product's purpose in mind. User story mapping and acceptance criteria. In many interviews, you'll be asked to walk through how you translate product goals into user stories. This is where your ability to break down value and deliver it incrementally becomes very clear. You might hear, "How do you approach writing user stories?" or "Tell me about a time when you used story mapping to plan a release." Start by explaining user story mapping as a technique, laying out the user journey as activities and tasks, then slicing that journey into vertical slices of value. This helps you prioritize based on outcomes, not just features. You can say something like, "I use story mapping at the start of new epics or releases to visualize the flow and ensure we are solving real user problems." It also helps team see dependency and plan MFPS more effectively. Then dive into writing user stories. Talk about using the classic format as a user, I want, goal, so that, benefit. But don't stop there. Great stories include context, value, and collaboration. You can describe how you write the first draft, then refine it with developers and QA during backlog grooming or planning. Acceptance criteria are where many candidates fall short. Don't just say clear and testable. Give examples of specific criteria you are writing. Show how you use them to avoid ambiguity, guide development, and ensure alignment with business needs. Also, be ready to talk about splitting stories. Interviewers might ask how you handled a large story that couldn't fit in a sprint. Share techniques like splitting by workflow step, data variations, or CRUD operations, and always keeping slices user valuable. You can also mention how story mapping helped stakeholders see scope clearly, or how visual mapping helped drive better estimation and team alignment. In short, use this topic to show how you think in terms of user journeys, value delivery, and collaborative planning, not just ticket creation. Collaboration and conflict resolution. One of the least talked about but most critical skills of a great product owner is the ability to collaborate across roles and resolve conflict without damaging relationships. In interviews, you might be asked, how do you handle disagreements between team members? Or tell us about a time when your team didn't agree with your prioritization. Start by describing how you create a collaborative environment. This means being present during team discussions, inviting input during refinement and planning, and being approachable when developers need clarification. It also means understanding your team's language, business, design, and technical, even if you are not the expert in any one domain. But collaboration isn't always smooth. Conflicts will happen between team members, with stakeholders, or even with customers. What matters is how you respond. Maybe you had a situation where a developer strongly disagreed with your prioritization, or where QA felt the acceptance criteria weren't testable, or where leadership was pushing for a release that the team felt wasn't ready. Share how you listened, clarified intent, and helped navigate to a decision, even if it wasn't popular. Sometimes the best thing you can do is facilitate a conversation, bring people into the same room, refocus on outcomes, and guide them toward a shared understanding. Explain how you stay neutral and data driven, especially when emotions are high or pressure is intense. You can also mention how you use conflict constructively as a way to surface hidden assumptions, sharpen decision making, and improve team dynamics. In interviews, show that you are not afraid of conflict, but you manage it with empathy, logic, and a focus on product value. Business acumen. While technical fluency and agile knowledge are important, strong business acumen is what truly elevates a product owner. You are not just delivering features, you are delivering business outcomes. Interviewers may ask, how do you ensure your product decisions align with business goals? Or tell us about a time your product helped the company grow revenue or reduce cost. Start by showing that you understand your business model. Whether you are in a B2B SaaS, e-commerce, healthcare, or finance, each industry has different drivers of success. Can you speak to those drivers? Can you tie backlog items to metrics like revenue, churn, cost saving, customer retention, or market growth? Then explain how you use business context to prioritize work. For example, maybe your product team had two features in the queue. One was requested by customers and another aligned with the new market expansions. How did you decide which to build first? Good answers show how you used market trends, leadership input, or financial analysis to guide your decision. Also, talk about your cross-functional communication. Do you regularly meet with sales or customer support? Do you understand what's impacting NPS scores or why churn has increased in a segment? Even things like regulatory awareness, cost of infrastructure, or unit economics may not be your direct responsibility, but understanding them makes you a stronger, more informed decision maker. Ultimately, interviewers want to see that you don't just think in terms of backlog items, but in terms of business impact, and that you can represent the product with credibility at any level of the organization. empathy, and user-centered design. One of the most powerful differentiators for a product owner is genuine empathy for users. If you care deeply about solving real problems, not just building features, it shows up in your decisions, your backlog, and your interviews. Expect questions like, how do you ensure the product meets user needs? Or tell us how you gathered and used user feedback in a past project. Start by talking about your process. Maybe you conduct user interviews, shadow customer support calls, run usability tests, or analyze survey responses. The point is, you don't assume what users want. You go find out. Explain how this feedback informs your backlog and priorities. For instance, if multiple users struggled with onboarding, did you push usability improvements higher in your roadmap? If one feature was requested repeatedly, how do you validate whether it was worth building? You also should explain how you involve users throughout the development process through beta testing, early demos, feedback loops, or post-release surveys. Show that user input isn't a one-time task. It's embedded in how you build and evolve the product. Share examples where empathy changed the course of your product. Maybe you discovered an edge case affecting a small group of users with high impact. Maybe feedback revealed that your terminology was confusing and a simple copy change improved engagement. These small stories reflect big thinking. Finally, highlight how you balance user needs with business goals. Sometimes they are intention, like when simplifying the UI could reduce upsell opportunities. Show that you navigate those trade-off with integrity, clarity, and user advocacy. In interviews, empathy is a soft skill with a high impact, and showcasing it can truly set you apart. What we've covered so far are the most critical areas product owner interviews tend to focus on, from backlog management to business acumen, from roadmap planning to user empathy. But preparation isn't just about knowing the answers, it's about understanding the thinking behind them. Interviewers want to see how you reason, how you prioritize, how you collaborate, and how you adapt. That's where real confidence comes from, and that's exactly what our full course is designed to help you build. The course is called Product Owner Interview Preparation. Stand out with confidence. Inside, we go deep into each of these topics with carefully crafted interview questions and answers. You learn how to tailor your responses, avoid common traps, and bring your real experience to life, even if you are switching roles or coming from a different background. The link to the full course is available in the description or in the resource file attached to this video. Check it out. And if you find this fast track session valuable, you love the deep and clarity the full course provides. Thanks for watching, and we wish you the very best in your product owner journey. You'll find the enrollment link in the description or in the resource file attached to this video. If you're serious about landing the role, this code will help you approach interviews with clarity and confidence. We hope to see you inside.